What happens when you finally stop chasing him? You woke up on a Saturday and realized something strange. For the first time in months, you didn't check your cell phone expecting a message from him. He did not fantasize excuses to appear casually where he would be, simply stopped. And it was in this silence that something extraordinary began to happen. Jung said that what we resist persists, but what happens when you finally let go? When you stop chasing after it, you're not just changing a behavior, you're activating one of the most powerful psychological processes out there, something that completely alters the energetic dynamic between the two of you, because the truth is brutal. While you chase, he runs away. But when you stop, the whole game turns. In this video, I'm going to reveal what really goes on behind the scenes of the male psyche when you finally take a step back, and I assure you, what you are about to discover will completely change the way you relate. Get ready, because nothing will be the same as before. 1. The emptiness he feels and why it changes everything. When you stop chasing, the first thing that happens is an emptiness, not in you, but in him. And this emptiness is devastating. Throughout the time you were chasing, there was a dynamic in place. You were the source of attention, validation, and emotional energy. He got used to it. I woke up knowing that there would be a message from you. I knew you were there, available, waiting. This created a psychological comfort zone where he didn't have to make any effort. Jung would call this a state of relational unconsciousness, where he simply reacted to his stimuli without ever questioning what he really felt. But then you disappear, and suddenly that space that was filled by you becomes empty. In the first few days, he doesn't even realize it properly. Perhaps you even feel a superficial relief, thinking that you now have more freedom. But something starts to bother you. He picks up his cell phone and there is nothing. It passes by a place where you used to meet and you're not there. His routine, which was structured around his constant presence, begins to crumble. This emptiness works like a mirror. For the first time, he is forced to look inside himself. Without you filling all the emotional space, he has to deal with his own feelings, and that's uncomfortable. Many men spend their entire lives avoiding this type of internal confrontation. They jump from relationship to relationship, from distraction to distraction, precisely so as not to feel this existential emptiness. What you need to understand is that this emptiness is not negative. On the contrary, it is the beginning of an awareness. When you were always available, he never had to miss you. He never needed to value his presence because it was guaranteed. But now, without you, he begins to realize how much you filled his life. The conversations, the moments, the energy you brought, all of this disappears at once. And here's the psychological trick that Jung understood perfectly. We only value what we can lose. While you were there chasing, you were not something he could lose. You were a constant. But when you disappear, when you withdraw your energy, he experiences for the first time the real possibility of your absence. And it is this possibility that awakens in him something that was dormant, genuine desire, not the comfortable desire to have someone always available, but the restless desire to regain something valuable that is slipping away. This emptiness, therefore, is the catalyst for everything that comes after. 2. The feminine energy that attracts without pursuing. There is a magnetic force in the feminine that has nothing to do with chasing or convincing. It is an energy of receptivity, of being instead of doing. When you run after him, you are operating in a masculine frequency, action, achievement, initiative, and this creates a fundamental energy imbalance. Two equal poles repel each other. If you are in the masculine energy and so is he, there is no attraction, there is competition or indifference. The moment you stop chasing, something interesting happens. You automatically go back to your feminine essence. You stop being the hunter and go back to being the mystery. And mystery is irresistible. Jung talked about the anima and the animus, the archetypes of the feminine and masculine that exist in all of us. When a woman is comfortable in her feminine energy, she activates in the man the desire to express his masculine. He wants to protect, conquer, seek. Think of the moon and the sun. The sun does not chase the moon, but there is a cosmic dance between them. The moon has its own brightness, its own orbit. She doesn't need to convince the sun of anything. It simply exists, and that existence is magnetic. When you stop chasing, you become like the moon, mysterious, complete in itself, going at its own pace. This feminine energy has several characteristics. First, it is self-sufficient. You don't need it to feel complete. You have your own life, your own interests, your own source of happiness. Second, it is receptive but selective. You're open to connection, but you're not desperate for it. Third, it has clear limits. You know what you accept and what you don't, and you don't negotiate it. When a man feels this energy, something in him awakens. It is as if he recognizes, on a primitive and instinctive level, that he is facing something valuable. It's not about games or manipulation. It's about you being genuinely centered in yourself. And centering is attractive because it is rare. Most people are constantly seeking external validation, trying to prove their worth, chasing after it. But you, when you stop chasing, you are saying energetically, I have value, and I know it. I don't need to prove anything. And that inner certainty, that peace with who you are, that's what really attracts, not superficially, but deeply. He begins to wonder what you have that he doesn't. Why are you so fine without it? What has changed? And the more he asks himself this, the closer he gets, because you have become what every human being unconsciously seeks, someone complete in themselves. When you stop chasing, something shifts. The energy that was running after him finally returns to you. If you're ready to understand why letting go changes everything, discover the Jung method. The link is pinned in the first comment. 3. The mirror that reveals who he really is. His absence acts as a brutal mirror for him. While you were chasing, he had a comfortable narrative about himself. Maybe he saw himself as the guy you want, the one who has options, who can choose when and how to get involved. His constant presence fed this image he had of himself. It was a silent validation of his ego. See, I'm important. She doesn't let me go. But when you disappear, that mirror breaks, and what appears behind it is the naked truth about who he really is at that moment in his life. If he was genuinely uninterested, his absence will make no difference. He will move forward without looking back. But if there was something real there, if he was just too comfortable or afraid to commit, his absence will expose it in a painful way. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming who we really are, often begins with a crisis, and his absence may be exactly that crisis for him. Suddenly, he has to confront questions he was avoiding. What do I really want? What am I afraid of? Why couldn't I value what I had? These questions don't come up when you're there, available, making everything easy. The mirror also reveals his patterns. If he is someone who only values what is far away, this will be obvious. If he is afraid of intimacy and uses distance as protection, this will also become clear. If he is emotionally unavailable because he has not yet healed from old wounds, all of this comes to the fore. And it doesn't come to the surface for you, it comes to himself. It's an inside revelation that can be extremely uncomfortable. Many men, when confronted with this mirror, try to run away. They seek distractions, other people, anything that prevents them from looking at that uncomfortable truth. But others, those who have a minimum of emotional maturity, use this moment as an awakening. They realize that they were acting on autopilot, that they were wasting something valuable, that they need to change. The interesting thing is that you are not doing any of this intentionally to provoke this reflection in him. You simply stopped chasing because you realized you needed to take care of yourself. But the side effect is that he is forced to see himself as he really is. And this vision can be the beginning of a genuine transformation, or the confirmation that he was not ready for what you offered. Either way, you win. Because either he wakes up and becomes someone who is really worth it, or you discover that you haven't lost anything by walking away. The mirror does not lie. 4. The secret fear that awakens in him. Every man has a secret fear that he rarely admits, even to himself. The fear of not being enough. Not interesting enough, strong, successful, or lovable. This fear lies dormant when a woman is constantly running after him, because her presence acts as a silent confirmation that he is desirable. But when you stop, when you withdraw your attention and energy, that fear wakes up with full force. Suddenly, he begins to question himself. If I was so special, why did she leave? What's wrong with me? Am I not as important as I thought? These questions eat away at his ego from the inside out. And the more confident he seemed outwardly, the more devastating this inner awakening can be. Because men, especially those who hide behind a facade of indifference, are often the most insecure on the inside. Jung talked about the shadow, that part of us that we deny and repress. For many men, insecurity is part of this shadow. They build a persona of a confident, detached face who has everything under control. But when you disappear, when he loses the constant validation that his presence brought, the shadow emerges, and she brings with her all the fears he had been avoiding: loneliness, rejection, inadequacy. This fear has a paradoxical effect. At first, he can make him move even further away as a defense. It's as if he said, "I'm leaving before you realize I'm not enough." But if you stand your ground, if you don't run back at the first sign of his interest, something changes. Fear turns into motivation. He begins to think, I need to prove that I am worthy of her. I need to show my worth. And here's the crux of the matter. You're not doing this to manipulate him or to play on his feelings. You're just living your life, taking care of yourself, setting healthy boundaries. But the side effect is that he is forced to confront his own inner demons. And this confrontation may be the push he needed to grow. Fear also makes you realize something important, that you weren't guaranteed, that he was taking your presence for granted, assuming that you would always be there waiting. And when he realizes that this is not true, when he understands that he can actually lose you, the value he places on you multiplies exponentially. Because we human beings are like that. We only give real value to what you can lose. And the fear of loss is one of the most powerful motivators out there. 5. The reconnection with your own value. When you finally stop chasing, the most important change doesn't happen in him. It happens in you. For the first time in a long time, you stop putting your value in someone else's hands. Stop measuring your importance by the attention it gives you or doesn't give you. And at that moment, something miraculous happens. You find yourself again. The whole time you were chasing, a part of you was asleep. The part that knew its own worth, that needed no external validation, that was complete independently of any man. This part was silenced by the noise of anxiety, the need for approval, the fear of losing. But when you stop, when you decide you're not going to beg for attention anymore, that part wakes up, and she wakes up strong. You start to remember who you were before him, the things that made you happy, the dreams you had, the friends you neglected, the hobbies you abandoned. You realize that at some point you put all your emotional energy into one basket, and that basket was him. And now, as you spread that energy back into your own life, you flourish. This reconnection with your value is not only psychological, it is energetic. You start to walk differently, talk differently, behave differently. There's a lightness in you that wasn't there before. Because you're no longer carrying the weight of a situation that doesn't value you. You are no longer squirming to fit into a dynamic that diminishes you. You simply are. Jung said that individuation, the process of becoming fully yourself, is the most important task in life. And you can't individuate yourself when you're lost in someone else. You can't find out who you really are when your whole identity is tied to whether someone wants you or not. But when you step back, when you choose yourself, you take the first step on that journey back home, to its very essence. And here's the beautiful irony of it all. The more you reconnect with your own worth, the more valuable you become to it. Not because you're trying to impress or win him back, but because there's an authenticity in you now that wasn't there before. You're not pretending to be okay, you genuinely are. You're not playing hard, you just have patterns now. And this difference is felt from miles away. Men are attracted to women who value themselves because this is rare. Most people are constantly seeking approval, trying to prove that they deserve love. But you, when you stop chasing, are silently declaring, I already know that I have value. And this certainty, this inner peace, is magnetic. Not in a manipulative way, but in a genuine way. You became the person you always were, but had forgotten to be. 6. The paradox of male desire. There is a fundamental paradox in male desire that few people understand. Men want what they cannot easily have. It's not a matter of games or strategy, it's basic psychology. Jung said that the male psyche is driven by the search, by the conquest, by the hero's journey, and a journey without challenge does not activate the inner hero. When you were chasing, you eliminated all the tension, all the challenge, all the uncertainty. He knew you were there. There was nothing to conquer because you had already surrendered, and that, paradoxically, killed his desire. Not because he's evil or manipulative, but because his psyche works that way. Without tension, without mystery, without the possibility of loss, desire simply does not ignite. But when you stop, when you step away, you reintroduce all these elements. Suddenly, there is tension again. There is uncertainty. He no longer knows if you are available, if you still care, if you will come back. And this unwisdom awakens something primal in him. The hunter inside him wakes up. Not the predatory hunter, but the archetypal hunter that Jung described. The one who seeks, who pursues, who values what he conquers with effort. The paradox is that the less you need him, the more he wants you. The more you are centered in yourself, the more it orbits around you. This may seem unfair or frustrating, but it's simply how the attraction dynamic works. And you're not doing it to manipulate, you're doing it because you realize that chasing after it wasn't working. You are being authentic with yourself. There is also another aspect of this paradox. Men say they want a woman who is easy, predictable, and who doesn't give work. But unconsciously, they lose interest in exactly this type of woman. What really lights the fire in them is a woman who has her own life, her own standards, who is not available for anything at any time. A woman they need to conquer on a daily basis, not because she's playing games, but because she genuinely has choices. When you stop chasing, you become that woman, not because she is following a relationship strategy, but because she is honoring herself. And this authenticity is what makes all the difference. He feels that he is not being manipulated. He feels that he is in front of someone real, someone who will not lower himself or diminish himself just to have a relationship. And that, for a mature man, is incredibly attractive. Male desire blossoms into admiration. And he cannot admire someone who devalues himself by running after him. But you can, and will, admire someone who has enough dignity to walk away if she is not treated as she deserves. That's the paradox. You lose him when you try to hold him too much, and you attract him when you're willing to let him go. 7. When he realizes what he has lost. There is a specific moment when everything changes for him. It's not immediate, it can take days or weeks. But eventually, the moment comes when he realizes, with painful clarity, what he has lost. And that moment usually comes when he sees you genuinely happy without him, or when he realizes that you're no longer waiting for anything to come from him. Maybe he meets you by chance and notices that you are radiant, not pretending to be well, but genuinely light and happy. Or maybe someone comments to him about you, about how well you are, how you are living your life. And it hits him like a punch in the stomach, because all this time, maybe he'd been waiting for you to come back. Maybe he assumed you were still there, thinking about him, waiting for a chance. But you're not. You've moved on. And that realization breaks something inside him. All the defenses he had built, all the excuses he made up to justify his behavior, it all falls apart. He realizes that while he was busy thinking he had all the time in the world, time ran out. While he played back and forth, you grew up and really left. Jung talked about synchronicity, those moments when the universe seems to conspire to teach you something, and this moment of perception for him is exactly that. It's as if the universe said, "Look what you had and wasted. Look at the incredible person you didn't know how to value." And this lesson is brutal because it is accompanied by deep repentance. Regret isn't just about losing